have Walt.
Whoa,
We have a Walt.
let me make sure your mic's on because I don't know if I turned it off. Hold on.
I'm back.
What's going on, Walt? You're back. Yay!
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 We're gonna cuddle more this time, right?
So I'm a little upset. You know, you put me behind schedule, man. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
All right, so
you know what?
people,
He sat on that bus.
Yeah, I did. I'm covered in bus dust again.
Bus dust, and there's people all over that bus again.
I know.
It's gross.
So, just to give everyone an intro, this is Walt Williams, lead writer from 2K Games.
Hi.
He's the brainchild behind Spec Ops The Line.
That might be the first time anyone's called me a brainchild.
You are a brainchild. You are a brain guru.
That's so sweet of you.
Ever been called a child?
A lot.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
It's on my business card at this point.
The child?
Yeah.
Nice. See, his business card's short. You know, that's going to be like the joke all weekend.
Dude, he used to have an entirely different title. He still has a made-up title.
He's got a made-up title too? Well, yeah, you call
No, he
him a
has a
brainchild.
very real title because he does all of the writing. Like,
That's
come
awesome.
on.
All of the writing.
All of
the
it. That's
words.
not
So
true.
what was-
Now some other dev is going to punch me in the face for saying that.
Yeah. They're like, oh, you're that girl.
Yeah.
So, give us a little like summary of how you like how did this come about? The story, like how did the story just take off?
Well, what we were looking to do when we sat back and we said, what's the kind of military shooter that we want to play? And
That's always a good start.
It is a good start. And looking at what was out there, there was everything, you know, it kind of fell in the same category. There wasn't a military shooter that kind of broadened the emotional spectrum, something that had a deeper narrative, something that was a bit more personal, something darker, really, something that just kind of went straight for the gut. Because we were thinking about films, military films that had inspired us to make us want a game like this. There's Platoon, Full Metal Jacket, you know, films that we're all fans of because they're classics, and they're classics for a reason. We didn't have a game like that, so...
Yeah, you had like the fun military shooter.
Exactly.
Like
we had John Wayne going in and punching Nazis, but with explosions.
One guy, take out a whole army. It's Rambo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's really where we went with this, was trying to find what's the game that we want to play that's not out there. Because honestly, being creators, we're gamers. We wouldn't be in this industry if we weren't. And so if there's a game that we want to play, we figured that's a game that everyone wants to play. Exactly. People out there are waiting for that game too.
Well, it's true.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's like same with what I do. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't enjoy gaming. I'm a gamer. I'm those guys. I want to talk to you and hear the same exact answers you're giving me and that you're giving them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all around. That's great, man. So what's your so your draw obviously is the older military movies.
Yes.
Any pull from anywhere else?
Well, I mean, you pull from, I spent a very small amount of time in the military. I don't claim to be a military person, but I still have, my family is a military family. I have friends who are still in the military, and you see them come back.
Was there consulting with rural military?
We did have a military advisor on the project.
Okay.
We did.
Okay.
But from like a personal standpoint, before really getting into the guts of this game, you know, I had friends that would come back. My brother spent 2 tours in Iraq, and they would come back from overseas, and for the most part, they were the same person.
They were slightly changed.
Yeah. You would
yes, I've got friends the same way.
Yeah.
I understand. Yeah.
And wanting to explore that, because treating war as just so much of an entertainment value in video games, it just kind of felt wrong, especially when I had these people that were so close to me. We wanted to, I'm sorry, I need to hold this closer to my mouth. We wanted to do something that felt a bit more respectful to what these people have to go through over there that we don't necessarily have to. That's not to say that this is a simulation of real-world combat. Obviously, Dubai's not covered in sand yet. You never know.
Yes. Yeah.
We're timing it for 2014. No, but
part of that end of the world thing.
Exactly.
Okay.
But we wanted, that's making a hyper-realized emotional experience so that the player can begin to feel that kind of emotional wear, that weight of all of it.
Feel the stress of warfare.
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
That's
so really,
awesome.
that was the biggest inspiration in making this game, was making something that could speak a little bit true to the people who choose to go over and do these things.
So, a question more on the technical side of writing for a video game. Now, do you write it as like a script? Do you write it as like a book? Is it just like, you know what I mean?
Wow.
How does that happen? Like,
well, honestly, writing a video game, I did some screenwriting and some comic book writing before. Writing a video game is the hardest writing that I've ever done in my life. There's, if you can't sit down and come up with 10 interesting ways to say, cover me, I'm reloading, you probably don't need to be writing video games. Because any video game writer, we reach that point where
Or how many times can you say grenade in a different way?
Exactly.
Grenade out.
Grenade out.
Incoming.
Fire in the hole.
Yeah.
Nade. Throwing something that explodes. But there's with a script like Spec Ops, you have to, or really any game, you have like 5 different scripts. I mean, you start up the main, your main story that the player is going to have to experience no matter what. That's your first draft, and from there, that's a skeleton. Actually, I look at it a lot
like
building a house.
This is like the overview. This is what's happening, and then you have to go with each character and all that. So it's like writing for actors, pretty much.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Once we had the actors in the studio, it was like that. But for me, I kind of see it like building a house. Your main story, that's just the framework. But then you got to realize that outside of those story moments, the player is still in that world. They're still in that moment. So if that particular cutscene or that story beat makes the player feel sad, because we want them to feel sad, when that cutscene's over, everything in that immediate area, I need the player to keep feeling sad as long as I need them, because they are still existing in that moment. So that's when you get into the meat of it. That's when you're putting up the walls, you're decorating the house. And then you have to, these characters, they have their own arcs, and you have to be true to them. How are they going to react to things? How are they going to react to you? Because you are not just Walker. You are yourself inhabiting Walker, and they have to be reacting to you while you're reacting.
You have to have
to
that same feeling.
Yes,
that person would have. Yeah.
It's a lot of work. It takes a long time to
He
write
just
a
wore
video
me out
game.
listening to all the work he does.
This, to be entirely honest with you, I think when this game finished, when we were finally done writing, there were probably 20 final drafts of this script.
So do you write do you do the dialogue too? So you write the story,
yes,
then you write all the dialogue?
I do the dialogue.
So you're writing like the millions of lines that one character has for millions of different types of...
Absolutely.
Fun.
Yeah, it's pretty great. And also doing level design, level directing as well. So it's a really big job writing a
Does
video
anybody
game.
in the video game industry just do one thing for their company?
No, absolutely not. No. I have like 6 jobs. It's insane.
Some people are asking some of the stuff that you've done before, games that you've worked on, things they might know.
Okay, well, I was story editor on BioShock 2. I've done writing for, I wrote on Mafia 2.
Again.
Darkness 2.
Again.
Civ 5. My first game for 2K was the Family Guy game, which I...
Dude, wait. We're going to back up here. My wife is not a gamer. My wife played through that whole game because she thought it was hilarious.
Thank you. I can take mild credit for that. I had to work with the Family Guy show writers as well.
The Stewie hospital level.
Man.
We got to do some things in that game that we were not expecting. Yeah, that was my introduction.
Little Quagmire.
That was my introduction.
I was just
to the
like,
video
you've
game
got
industry.
to be kidding me.
Oh yeah. It was fantastic.
We had that game at home. We still have it at home. Yeah. You know what? I'm streaming that when I get home. We are streaming the Family Guy game when I get home. Thank you for reminding me of that
Thank
game.
you that now someone is still playing that game.
I'm a Family Guy fan, and you know, I'm not gonna lie, it did get a lot of. It's like, dude, it's the Family Guy.
Absolutely.
It's not supposed to be freaking Hamlet.
Exactly.
So yeah, I loved it. So kudos, dude.
Thank you very much.
I would put that at the top of your list.
Wow, that goes old school. That goes way back.
I like that.
I also have
great.
another more general question from a couple people on the chat. They want to hear from you what your overview of the game is. If you were going to give your, well, I'm going to call it an elevator pitch, which isn't exactly what they asked, but can you describe plot, game?
Yeah, well, I mean, the basic overview plot is that after Dubai has been ravaged by cataclysmic sandstorms, and I'll look directly at you for this since I'm answering your question. After Dubai has been ravaged by these cataclysmic sandstorms, there's a belief that there are people possibly still alive in the city, and you, as Captain Walker, is sent in the leader of a reconnaissance group, and you're just meant to go in and look, just to find out if there are survivors, and then get back out. Call for an evacuation team to come in and get these people out. But what you find is that there are survivors, and that they are, for some reason, at war with each other. Both the refugees and the damn 33rd, that the U.S. battalion that was sent in to evacuate these people. And you, as Commander Walker, you have a relationship with the commander of the 33rd, John Conrad. He saved your life on a mission in Kabul years ago. And so you stay in, you go deeper in to try and find him, to try and find out what's happening with the 33rd. And you get pulled into this madness that's kind of gripping the city until a point where you can't get out. you get so far deep in that you can't separate yourself from the war and the madness. And hopefully that answers your question. Is there another one?
No, they want more plot, but I think that's one of the things that you don't want to go too deep.
Yes, it's very.
Come play the demo.
It's very difficult to go into the plot of a game like this because if we give too much away, and I say the same thing to journalists when they come and play and they ask questions. It's not that I don't want to spoil it before the game comes out. It's that I don't want to rob you of the emotional experience of exploring and having these moments come onto you like they're coming onto the characters in the game. That's what really Spec Ops is about, is being able to experience this kind of emotional journey with the characters and come upon your own reactions emotionally of what's happening. So I could give you more answers, but ultimately I feel like that would be a disservice to really anyone who's going to play the game.
People are also asking a bit more about you. They want to know whether you started off as a writer in the industry or how you started.
Oh, wow. I actually, I did not start off as a writer in the industry. I started off as, we called it game analyst at the time. I think it's production assistant now. I moved up to New York about 7 years ago. Originally, my plan was to become a comic book writer. And then I ran into 2K and began working with them. And they were like, whoa, you're a writer? Like, I am, actually. And 7 years later, now I'm lead writer. And comic books are, well, they're off doing, I don't know what they're doing at the moment, but like I said earlier, like, writing video games is the hardest writing I've ever done, but at the same time, it's the most fulfilling writing that I've ever done.
You get this, exactly.
You
actually get to see your final work.
Yes, well, not only that, you're not just writing a story, you're writing a world that people are going to inhabit.
And it's different for everybody.
It is.
It's not the same story for everybody.
It is.
Everybody hears something different, does something different. Yeah.
And that's what I love, is it is harder because there's so many layers, but the experience is richer. And the creation and getting to know the characters and find out what they would do under different circumstances controlled by someone else. That's richer. Like, I get to know characters in a game that I'm writing more than I know characters in any other story and any other medium.
I keep seeing the game and
I know.
I keep going, what's going on?
I love watching it, actually. I have to keep my back to it because I love watching it.
Well, luckily I've got it in front of me, so I'll talk to you and stare off in the distance.
Okay.
So another question is, how long did it take you to write?
Wow, a long.
I know, I laugh at that
one. A long time. I would say the best answer for that would probably be about 2.5 years. The thing is, I believe the writing really happens in the rewriting process. I joked earlier there was probably about 20 final drafts of the game. But the fact of the matter is that, I mean, we would get to a point where I was rewriting, doing a full rewrite at least once a month for about 13, 14 months in a row. Because that's really where the story gets better, when you can get into it and experience it and just chip away or build up the best parts of it. So I believe in rewriting. I think the first draft of anything is probably, it's not the best. You got to keep going. You got to keep getting into it. So about 2.5 years.
More people want to know about aspiring writers in the industry. Do you have any advice? And also, how many years do you have?
I have 7 years experience within the gaming industry, both as a production assistant, as a writer. For aspiring writers getting into the industry, take any job you can get. That's the first thing. I didn't take a writing job. I took a production assistant job. Take any job you can get. Get in, listen, learn. Don't try and assert yourself, but learn from the people around you. At the same time, write non-stop in your free time, on the weekends. Don't just write for games, write anything. The more that you write, the better you're going to write. And just make sure that the people you work with know that you're a writer. And, you know, just be willing to help in any capacity. I mean, I've done level design, I've done art design, I've done animation, cutscenes, I do trailers, I do screenshots, I direct the actors, I write scripts.
Well, when you're anywhere in product development, you end up...
You do everything, which really makes a resume really hard to write when you're like, this is my job title, and these are all the things that I do that have nothing to do with that. It's just perseverance and time. If you want to be a writer in any kind of industry, in any kind of medium, keep writing, never stop. Because most people will stop halfway through the first thing that they write. And if you finish that first draft and you keep writing, you're already ahead of 95% of the crowd.
So I have another question about game and trailers, especially with a game like this where you don't want to reveal too much. How do you figure out what trailers to make and how to do the writing for the trailers?
Oh. Well, I mean, it's a mix. I mean, it's a group effort. Sometimes people say, Walt, we would like to do a trailer about Conrad and kind of exploring that character, or we want to maybe explain a bit more about Dubai. You know, I'll go off and I'll sit down, I'll write some stuff, and you know, you look at what you already have in the game, but then you also like, how can I go deeper? What would this character necessarily be feeling if you were asking? Actually, what I tend to do is, what if I was interviewing one of the characters? I think if I had a chance to ask him a question about what would you think about Dubai, and then I have him answer that question back to me, and then you know, you tweak it and edit to fit more into a trailer thing, but that's generally the way I try to look at it, is what would they say? Not what do I want to say, but what does that character, what does he want to say through his voice if I were to give him a platform?
And how about in terms of the characters themselves, or I know that we can't really go into scenes, but what was challenging for you to write and make believable? Because one of the things that I have problems with is a lot of the times dialogue is canned in games, and characters, when you really step back and think about them, they're not believable. You can put yourself in the game, be like, sure, I'm on a space station, so that makes sense, but how do you make it believable?
Well, the most difficult part was definitely the squad dynamic between Walker, which is the player character, and Adams and Lugo, your two squad mates. For me, it was really important that Adams and Lugo felt like real people, that they were having real reactions to what you did, but also to what was happening in the world. Honestly, it's not the most exciting answer in the world, but the real answer is iteration. If you can, when I'm writing, I talk out loud, and I give all of my characters their own voices. And it's fun when I'm in the office writing, because I'll take a break and I'll go to the restroom, and everyone's staring at me because I'm having conversations with myself in 3 different voices. And they're like, who is this guy, and what's happening here? And it's very strange. Then I go back to my office or closet, close the door, and everyone gets to forget that I'm there. But it's speaking your dialogue out loud, feeling the rhythm of it. We do table reads where we sit down with the script and get everyone in the office to pick a character. You just have to hear the rhythm of it, because these lines will eventually be spoken by an actor. And the truth of the matter is that just because you wrote a line doesn't mean it's perfect, doesn't mean it's exactly the way it needs to be. If someone tries to read a line out loud and they stumble over it twice, it's not that they read it bad, it's that I wrote it bad. And I go back and I will rewrite it to make it easier to say. Ultimately, it's about the emotion that's going to come through the line, not necessarily the exact words that are in it.
So also, in terms of, in the early stages of the game, we always have scratch VO. How does that change from going from, you know, the impromptu VO that's done by the dev team to when it goes to full actors? Does that really change the way you write or need to rewrite?
Well, I mean, you'd be surprised how much rewriting you do on the spot in the studio, because we'll do the scratch VO with just various guys around the office, but then you get in there with a real actor, a professional, someone who reads lines for a living. And I have a tendency, personally, to trust them. Like, if they get into a line and they say, this is how I feel my character would say it, this is how I feel the intensity of the scene, you let them run with it. And one of the things that we do, especially with the squad, that I think helped so much, is we recorded the squad simultaneously. We didn't do the actors one at a time. We had them in the room together. They were acting the scenes together, playing off each other. You get a truer emotional reaction from the characters and from the actors when you do that. And all the times, like, I'll listen to that, you know, they're like, Walt, I don't know that necessarily my guy would say this. This feels a bit, is he trying to be funny? Is he trying to be clever? Like, I don't know what's up with this. And, you know, we'll rewrite it on the spot to make it work more because frankly, once my actors have started reading these lines, once they've gotten into the character, in many ways, they know that character more than I do. I'm just the guy feeding them lines at that point. They are the character. And I, you know, trust their instinct, because ultimately, at the end, they're the professional when it comes to actually acting. So in terms of dialogue and choosing it, I know that recording sessions can go on for hours and you get dozens of lines. How do you choose them? Do you actually just go through them one by one and pick your favorite? Yes, you do. If your recording session took you 4 hours, you've got another 4 hours afterwards by yourself, sitting alone in a dark room, listening to every line that you've already heard and going, I like that one. And probably a little longer, because you're going to go, this one, it's like when you go to the eye doctor and they're like, 1 or 2. 1 or 2? And you're like, I actually don't even know if there's a difference. It's a lot like that, but much more boring. This is why I do it alone in a dark room, so that no one else has to watch it. It's much more exciting if you don't know how it happens.
So we're running low on your time right now.
Oh.
Not to say that he won't be back if you have more questions, because I know you're around all the time.
I am. They won't let me leave here.
If there's one thing that you want people to know or take away from this and remember when we're getting closer to June and they're thinking about actually buying the game, what is that?
This is a game that you are not necessarily prepared for. There's the nature of the story, the nature of the experience. Unfortunately, we have to keep a lot of things quiet, which makes it hard to sell a game like this because you have to trust us. We say that there are moments, there are things in here that are going to shake you. I can't tell you what it is because then it wouldn't shake you when you saw it. But what I want people to take away from this is that this game is different. This is not the military shooter that you've played before. This is not Call of Duty or Battlefield in third person. This is an entirely different type of military shooter that we haven't had yet. And it's something that we are incredibly proud to stand beside and say that, yes, we spent many, many years putting this together, and we cannot wait for you to experience. Ultimately, that's really what I want people to take away from this, is that there's something out there coming that they haven't seen yet, and I can't wait for them to finally see it and get to play it.
Cool. Well, I think I'm going to let you escape from the bright lights of the camera.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
always.
I feel really formal doing
I know,
that.
it's so weird shaking your hand, but I'll give you the mic back. How about it?
Okay, sounds good. Okay, guys,